Working with colliders in Lagoa is actually really important, so I'm going to show you some basics of the workflow of working with colliders. Now you're probably wondering, well, we've already worked with colliders. We added this bowl as a collider and that was it. Well, a lot of times during the project you may find yourself in a situation where a collider or more colliders get added to a project. So say for example, I've got this bowl, but let's say for example my boss walks in right now and says, hey, we're not doing a bowl anymore. We're doing a bowl and we're doing something else. We're putting a spoon inside the bowl and the particles have to be able to interact with that spoon. So that could happen. So how do we add more colliders to our Lagoa simulation? Well, we can keep on adding more and more colliders. It's actually pretty easy. So let me show you how to do this. Let's go ahead and create a new object. So I'm going to go to Polygon Mesh. I'll create a simple cylinder over here. Let me maximize this view so it's a little bit easier to work. Move this up. Let me just rotate this like so. Radius is fine. Let me increase the height. So this is going to go kind of across the bowl and separate the two sides. Subdivisions about 12 will work out pretty good. So this is what I want to be a collider in my Lagoa simulation. Now you can see in our ice tree over here, the serial bowl is set up as the passive rigid body with the simulate multiphysics node. So if I wanted this cylinder to be part of that, what I could do is drag and drop it, and let me just make some changes here to the simulation. Let me make it play at every frame. I'm going to change the resolution to 0.5 just so it's a little bit faster. I'm going to switch the generation to hex. Let me also go to the main material over here. I'm going to solve pressure because I want it to be more like a fluid. I'm going to take off elastics. That's going to work out pretty good. Let me go back here. I'm going to turn pressure back on. Take off elastics and plastic flow. So let me rewind and hit play. I'm going to get my particles come down, and they're going to go right through the cylinder, and they're going to interact only with the bowl. Okay. So to make this interact with the cylinder, what I could do is take the cylinder here in the ice tree, take the out name value, plug it into the passive body name, and now let me go back and play this again. Let's see what happens. Particles now hit the cylinder, but they go right through the bowl. So fix one problem but created another. So how can I have the serial bowl and the cylinder both work with the multiphysics node? Well, it's actually pretty easy. We create a group. By creating a group, anything that's inside of the group will work with the collision system. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cylinder, I'm going to select the bowl as well over here in the Explorer, then I'll hit Control G to create a group. I like to rename my groups, so I'll rename this to Colliders Group. You can call it whatever you want, but I find that this method makes a lot of sense. So anything that's inside of the Colliders Group, that's a geometric object, will actually work as a collider with the Lagoa system. So what I can do is I can get rid of this serial bowl and cylinder from my ice tree over here. Get rid of that. And I'm going to drag and drop the entire group. So now I have this get colliders group, and I'm going to take the out name and I'm going to plug this into the collisions passive body in name. So now this entire group is going to work. So now if I hit play, my particles are going to come down, they hit the cylinder, and then they hit the bowl. So if I wanted to add a spoon, if I wanted to add a little cube or a character's hand or whatever it is, these particles will interact with it the way you would expect. See that? Now, one more thing. Okay, last thing about colliders. If I take the bowl and I refresh the ice tree, you'll notice that it has an ice tree and it's got this Lagoa set collision data compound. If I open up this compound, it's got some settings for the collider. These settings are specific to the bowl that works with the particles. Okay, so we've got some elasticity settings as well as some collision settings for static friction, impulses, as well as some soft repulsion. Okay, this works directly with the particles, so I can play around and make the bowl a slippery type surface, or I can make it a sticky surface where the particles are going to want to kind of stick to it more and have more friction and stuff like that. And I can do that by using this static friction parameter right here and stuff like that. Okay. At the moment, however, if I select the cylinder, which was the new object that I created later, and I refresh its ice tree, you'll notice it doesn't have an ice tree at all. Okay. It doesn't have that set collision data compound. So what I need to do is I need to apply it. Now, technically, the Lagoa simulation will work without it. So as you've seen, it's actually interacting with the cylinder even though it doesn't have the set collision data compound on it. So technically it works. However, you don't want to work this way because you want to have that set collision data compound so you can adjust the individual friction settings and things like that on the cylinder or whatever rigid body this is, whatever collider this is. Okay, so in order to add that compound very easily, what you can do is just select the cylinder, come over to your ICE menu toolbar, go to collision, go down to Lagoa particles, and click on set collision data. When you do that, let's refresh the ice tree. You'll notice that now the cylinder has had an ice tree applied to it with the set collision data compound. If I open that up, I've got my own individual settings I can use for the cylinder. So I can make the cylinder sticky and the bowl very slippery, or the bowl sticky and the cylinder slippery, whatever I want to do, just by using these parameters up here. So it's actually extremely useful, and that's the way that you want to work with colliders inside of Lagoa. So it's very easy. If I create any more objects like a cube or a sphere, or I bring in a character or something like that, or whatever, and I want to make them colliders, just bring them into your scene, create them, and then add them to the colliders group, and they'll automatically work. But don't forget to go the extra step and select that new collider and go to collision, set collision data from the Lagoa particles menu in here. Okay, so that you can have this this compound and you can adjust the different friction settings and things like that. Pretty important stuff. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. In the next one, we're going to start working on our first actual Lagoa example project.